I had to have a revision procedure done on a skin cancer scar between my nose and upper lip. The original incision line had to be cut, and the scar tissue needed to be removed. I was numbed with lidocaine, but otherwise I wasn't medicated and fully awake. I was numbed to the pain, but I could feel the doctor tug my skin, and I could both feel the pressure of them cutting the skin and also hear the sound of my skin being cut. It was so unsettling. Then they pulled out the cauterizer, and because they were working millimeters from my nose, I could smell my burning skin. It smelled like scrambled eggs burning on the stove. The nurse told me it was her favorite smell. I told her that's weird as fuck. Wear your sunscreen. Right as the pandemic started, I got this pressure in the bottom right of my torso that didn't hurt but was crazy sensitive for about a month. I couldn't move around at all and barely slept the entire time. I got an ultrasound, colonoscopy, and multiple rounds of blood work, and none of the doctors could tell what was wrong. It eventually just went away, but it was horrible. When I was 18, I had breast reduction surgery. The day I got to finally take the bandages off at home, my mom helped me because I still didn't have full range of movement with my arms. We were standing in the bathroom. She said to be aware that I was still very swollen, bruised. I turned to the mirror completely blacked out. I didn't faint, but my vision tunneled down to nothing. I lost my hearing too. I said, I can't see or hear anything, somehow not panicking. I could hear my mom talking, but it was just sounds, not words. A few moments later, not actually sure how long, everything came back, but it was wild that my brain just said, nope, no thank you, we'll just censor this moment, thank you very much. After multiple tooth extractions, I had to wait for the stitches to dissolve and gums to heal. In 2 places, the gums healed around peaks in the sockets, but not over them initially. What this means is that parts of my bare jawbone were temporarily exposed. At the same time, there were splinters of bone left from the extractions that were slowly working their ways out of the gums. I went to pull one of the bone splinters out, and my fingernail caught a bit of one of the exposed peaks. For a split second, I felt my entire skeleton. It didn't hurt, but was kinda like an electrical shock from scalp to soul, except definitely deeper than skin. Not painful but very unpleasant. Even not keen to replicate. I get migraines that mimic stroke symptoms. The weirdest part though is how it affects reading writing. It completely cuts off the word-meaning connection the brain usually makes. This also happens in the reverse. I know what I mean, but I can't think of the words. It's that tip of my tongue feeling cranked to 100. And yes, it's as frustrating as it sounds. BC, it applies to even the simplest vocabulary. Something usually as effortless as blinking becomes something that needs real, concentrated effort. And you have a splitting headache. Lol, a lot of times the literacy issue will appear before the pain. So if I'm texting somebody and start making a lot of typos and writing sentences that didn't make sense, I know a migraine is coming. Got a shard of metal in my eye, and to get the rust ring out of my cornea, they had to freeze my eyeball and use a needle. When the doc went in with the needle, my eyeball was so frozen that my eye socket felt empty. I then started to feel immense pressure on the back of my eye socket because the pressure on my eyeball was translating back. The tongue sensations that happen when you eat a spilance flower. Crazy tongue tingles that are difficult to describe. 2, my grandfather built a small machine, likely in the 1950s, that he would bring out at family gatherings. It plugged into the wall leading to the main unit, then wires coming out and ending in 4 metal tube handles. Basically, you turn it on and have a few people hold the handles. Adjust the knob, and static electricity flows through. At low power, it's a funny tingly sensation. Higher power produces muscle contractions to the extent you couldn't let go of the handles, arms curling up involuntarily. We'd laugh so much, my mom would usually pee her pants. Good times. Sleep paralysis, 0 stars, do not recommend. Over the years I've had it happen in batches when I'm really tired. It's like being between awake and asleep, but not being able to move. That alone is trippy, but then I tend to get this feeling of being dragged by something across my bed. I can also hear the dragging and pressure on my chest. I specifically remember one instance where a dark figure at the edge of my bed grabbed my ankles and lifted my legs up. I've had to teach myself that when this happens I must remain calm, breathe, remind myself it's not real, that I am in control, and that I must wake up. I'm more equipped to handle it, now but first few times it was absolutely terrible. While albeit some most can hurt. As someone who has carried a child, feeling a baby kick from inside you is hands down the most strange feeling. And when the baby has the hiccups, it's so weird to feel someone else's hiccups inside your body. Everyone has, at one point, kicked a pregnant lady. Everyone has, at one point, kicked a pregnant lady. Before being diagnosed with it, I had 2 serious skull fractures in an accident. For 18 months post-accident, I was having the feeling of cold water running down my back and legs under clothing and not raining. It caused serious discomfort and anxiety, not knowing what it was. Had 3 seizures in this 18 months and, after the first, the cold water feeling would get a lot more intense before the next. Finally seen a neurologist, Joe gave me the diagnosis, and worked with him to rewire the signals my brain was sending to my nerves. And also medication. Have felt it in 2 years, but seriously not anything I'd recommend or wish upon another person. Probably getting adenosine after having had heart arrhythmia for a decade. The intravenous drug is injected into your eye. And for those with a heart arrhythmia that isn't able to be brought back to normal sinus rhythm manually, it basically forces your heart to stop and restart. The feeling, like someone turns up gravity by 1000 and your body feels like you're simultaneously being pulled down into a bed alongside your heart, stopping for a few seconds. Didn't it hurt? For me, just felt really fucking weird. And I had it done 4 times, first 2 on separate occasions, and the last 2 were back to back because it didn't work the first shot. Getting laser eye surgery. You're laying on your back, a machine rotates 2B over your head, then what feels kind of like a suction cup lowers onto your eye and sort of squishes it a bit. It's not painful, but there is pressure and your vision fades out. Similarly to standing up too quickly or fainting. It's a weird feeling like your eye is being pushed and pulled, but oddly there is no pain. However, for a full 24 hours after it felt like my eyes were full of sand. They were deeply uncomfortable, both open and closed. It was really shitty, but totally worth it after a lifetime of wearing glasses. Wish I had done it sooner. I had poison ivy as a kid, and I was tearing myself up scratching. In the middle of the night, my mom came in when I was asleep and put Dad's business socks on my hand with rubber bands. Later that night, the neighbor's floodlight came on and woke me abruptly. Waking up, I was trying to figure what there was a spotlight right in my face and rubbed my eyes. But I couldn't feel my hands, and when I looked down in the dark, I couldn't see my hands because my dad's socks were black. So I started freaking out, and that went on for a few minutes. But I tell you, can't feel or see my hands. In a spotlight, I started thinking it was aliens. I had a stroke a few months ago. It was surreal. Everything went purple, then I had a seizure and passed out. When I came to, I felt a wonderful sense of calm. I was pretty sure I was dying, but didn't mind. Fortunately, my wife was with me, and she got me to hospital in time. On balance, I don't recommend it. Having liquid morphine fed into my arm. I think it's called hydromorphone. Firstly, it's cold, so you can feel it traveling up into your arm and into your chest. When it hit my heart, holy fuck. The room started spinning, my vision blurred, and I started hyperventilating. I was in a room full of other patients. I can only imagine what they were seeing. The only situational awareness I had was the sound of the nurse's voice. He was saying, "Just breathe deep, I'm right here, just listen to me." It subsided after about a minute. Then I was pretty happy, and my pain went away. I got swabbed for COVID, and they put that thing up my nose. Tears immediately started falling, completely unintentionally. There was no pain, it was just a reflex, but I wasn't expecting it at all. It was the strangest sensation. I'm writing this and really struggling on ways to describe it. At first it felt maybe like having to sneeze, but then it got more like cold. And then they pulled it out, and it tickled, and it felt like a stuck sneeze got and sneezed. I don't even know. Weirdest feeling ever. You were definitely never meant to feel stuff there, I can tell you that. I get dysmetropsia or Alice in Wonderland syndrome, even as an adult. For me, it's when I'm extremely tired, and my perception of things gets all messed up. It's not totally physical, but because of warped depth and size perception, I can't move properly because I cannot gauge distances. I feel gigantic or small or something that's inches away feels like it's several feet away. I didn't even know it was a thing until I tried to explain it to my partner when he saw me acting weird. I literally Googled, "I feel like Alice in Wonderland." Turns out it's a thing. I was driving through Oregon 8 years ago, and my wife and I stopped at a Target. Wandered around for a bit and eventually grabbed some underwear. Found a cashier and bought the underwear. After the transaction, the guy behind the register wanted to shake my hand. He was probably late 40s, early 50s. It was super weird, but I didn't know how to react and just shook his hand. His hand felt warm, damp, and squishy, like there wasn't any bones inside or something. Like I was shaking a jellyfish or something. It was the most bizarre sensation ever, and it lives rent-free in my head. I had pneumonia last year without knowing it, so I went into the thinking it was purely asthma-related issues. They decided to do a CORT scan, with contrast to be sure I didn't have any blood clots in my lungs. Friends, the nice tech was absolutely correct when she said that when they begin the iodine injection for contrast, I would feel like I peed myself. You didn't, but your blood vessels rapidly expanding make you feel a warm sensation near your genitalia apparently, making you think you peed yourself. I wore baby pink pants that day, and the fear I felt, lol.